I'm in conversation today with Katie Sharpe, who is an artist living in California. Katie is also a long-standing friend of mine and we met as trainees, as cabin crew, flight attendant, and that was nearly 9 years ago. And we have some shared experiences, and we want to explore those because we have started in a certain point that was the same, and we've ended up living in America, but with very different contexts and experiences. But we thought it would be fun to look at those together. Thank you,
Absolutely.
Katie.
Good morning. Hi,
Good
Claire.
morning. So I would like to hear a little bit about what even brought you to California, because I don't think when you were cabin crew you were planning to live overseas, were you?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I think I'd just come out of university, college. Um, I'd done German actually at uni, and I got the travel bug when I did my year abroad. And I was to and from Vienna quite a lot back home, just because, it was a 2-hour flight. Um, and I'd look at the flight attendants and be like, oh, I could do this. But I was quite settled in England, no plans to leave again. I just wanted to have that opportunity after I graduated to travel. So I was like, right, this is what I'm going to do. And then probably a year later, I met my husband, who's from here, and he was doing his masters in England. I think people always have this assumption that we had some kind of romantic meeting on an aeroplane. And I'm like, no, we met on OK Cupid, where I was living in Brighton. And yeah, we were together for pretty much the whole time. Well, yeah, almost the whole time he was doing his masters, and then he came home, and I followed him probably 2 or 3 years later. Yeah.
Mm. So you moved to California before COVID.
Right before. So I got married in October 2019. That's when I moved here. The shutdown started for us in California, or where I was in California at the time. I think it was March 2020. So I'd been there 5 months. It was like, bam, closed. Yeah, crazy.
Mm. And is that something you look back on and think is from where you're at now? Do you look back and think that was quite fortuitous that you'd made the move at that time, given that COVID was an unforeseen phenomenon?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it was difficult, and this is something you and I have talked about when you don't know your visa status. And for me, they very quickly came out saying we're not going to issue any green cards, which meant I couldn't go home and I couldn't work. Um, and so I was just kind of this housewife, and it like totally turned any idea I had of what my identity was on my head completely. Because at 18 years old, I strolled out the door in Lincolnshire, said bye, mum and dad, and was like just completely independent ever since. And then all of a sudden, I was in this um, I was in this tiny flat as a housewife, reliant on my husband for transport, for money, for everything. Um, and I definitely had my moments where I was like, God, if I'd just come a bit earlier, maybe my paperwork had been processed earlier and I
Mm.
could have spent this time working. Or if I'd just gone later, I could have just stayed at home with my family, and me and Andre we would see each other a bit later on. I know you've been long distance a lot with your husband and in your relationship, and you just kind of get used to like 8 months becomes nothing, 9 months becomes nothing. You just phone each other. And so I knew we'd be fine. But I don't know. Yeah, was it fortuitous? Yeah, I think looking back, probably it was. Probably it was good for me. I think it was probably good for our relationship in the long run. Um, and I think just for me, I feel like I've having everything taken away from you like that, and then building it all back up again. It was hard, but I think in the long run, it's been quite beneficial.
Mm.
So to start off with, I had my driving license from England, but there was nobody really, and this is a lot of being an immigrant, nobody really knows, can you be insured on the car properly, can you not? And then we were told I had to get my California license, but then they were like, no, you can't do it without a social security number, which I was waiting. It was all just kind of everywhere. So I would sort of be wanting to desperately go out. He would be wanting to sleep, and I could not do a single thing without him. You know, it's not like England. You don't just take the bus and off you go.
Mm.
um, so that was really, really tough. And I feel like mentally, it took quite a lot of fortitude to get through that. Um, because I could totally see it from Andre, from my husband's point of view. Yeah, he was tired, and like his job's very physical. It's really hard. But then it was very difficult once the door was closed and he was at work to not feel like, well, woe is me, poor me. And I mean, really, you have to learn to get some perspective, because then it's like, well, think about it. What, poor me, living in this beautiful apartment that a lot of Americans maybe can't afford because of this work your husband's doing. You know, there's a global pandemic. You don't have any work stress. That you are okay. But I think sometimes still just these like very basic like human needs that we have to interact with people, to be part of a community that we were missing. That I think it does impact you.
Mm.
And then I think just at one point I was like, right, I I was so reliant on Andre, and it was really driving a wedge between us. Not just the actual reliance, but also mentally. I was like, you need to do this. I want you to be here. Like, let's. And it was so much for him. Um, that in the end, I just sort of said to myself, right, you just forget about not forget your husband, but like sort of put him to one side where it comes to your happiness. Like you need to make it for yourself.
Mm.
Um, I mean, things changed a lot anyway, because we bought our little condo, which it was in a different town, and it's less. It's just a little bit more close, a bit closer to the countryside. It's a bit more
Mm.
suburban, so like I could get out and go hiking and just stuff like that. Um, but I really had to just like take control of myself and just be like, you can't just be so reliant on your partner all of the time. And I didn't even realize that I was. I think before we got married, I would never have said to you that I was at all. Um, and so I had to kind of reevaluate that and reevaluate what was important to me and kind of make my own way. Um, and then I think so. The initial, probably the first year was really tough. And then after that, when I just felt like, just let him do what he wants. Let him, don't get angry at him for being asleep. Don't like be annoyed that he's up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching TV. Just leave him, um, and do your own thing. And I did, and I started making friends when walking the dog, and I started getting out more and exercising more. And I think we were able to find a much happier medium then. When I was happier and I wasn't bringing the mood down, then he was as well. And I mean, he was having a hard time with his job. And I think for him to come home to a nice household that was relaxed and calm, and there was no expectation and no judgment, we sort of muddled through it.
Mm.
But like you said, you come over, you assume a lot of things. We thought, yeah, I'll have my visa in 6 months, and it ended up being almost 3 years. And um, I think we talk a lot, like nowadays, I think a lot of people do, about being in a moment and how good it is for you. And it really forced me to do that. You can't just think like, oh, well, in 6 months' time, I'll be working and I'll be doing it. You live so much in the future that isn't guaranteed. And it really taught me to just like slow down and be like, okay, well, what are you doing today? What's going to make you happy today? Or what's going to make you feel good today? Like, should I go for a walk? Let's go and get a coffee. Or you start to become a much more grateful person, a much more grounded person. And I think you just stop, like, I just do not live my life at great speeds anymore. Before, it's like the next thing, oh, I'm going to be a flight attendant now, and I'm going here, and then I'm going there, and I'm going to come home, and I went and did my teaching degree, and I'm going to do that. It was just like this all the time. And now I'm just like, oh, what should we have for lunch? Like, I don't. So I think, even going back to your first question about like, was it quite fortuitous? I think in that sense it is, because even though it was hard, now I have such a better appreciation of life for having gone through it.
Mm. I think you really had it compounded though, because I've only been in America, much less time than you, over a year,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and I therefore wasn't during COVID. So,
Yeah, yeah.
I I had the challenges of not being able to work and you know, questioning my direction and things like that, but without the added constraint of COVID. And one of the things that became very precious to me were the day-to-day meetings with people, the random meetings, I mean, you know, the conversation with the bus driver, going to the bakery and there not being a long queue and having time to talk to the cashier, you know, those moments. I don't know if I've ever told you this, the people in my laundromat seriously became like second family. They called me my friend every time I came in. And obviously we were post-COVID, so they would hug me. And when I came in, and I'm friendly, and they were friendly. And I used to, this must sound really strange to anybody, but I really enjoyed going to the laundromat because there was time to obviously do the laundry, but there was time to connect with people. Nobody was going anywhere. So the small pleasures became very important, the small interactions with people. Did you have a similar experience once you were emerging COVID?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, when COVID started, we kind of knew our neighbours and would say hello. And then as things started to ease up a little bit, we did get to know each other a bit more. But it's really weird though. I lived quite close to San Francisco. It was a little city that we lived in, and it just seemed like a more, I guess, like a younger person's place. I'm 32. I just assumed we'd meet other people our age. There's a lot of bars. There's a lot of restaurants and stuff, and we just didn't really. And then I moved to this like little rural or more rural town, and I met so many people just out walking my dog, and I really started to cherish just talking to people who they were on the way to work in the morning, they were just walking the dog before work. I found myself getting up, you know, really quite early sometimes when I'm a housewife. There's no need, but just to get those little adult conversations in, which was never anything particularly deep. You know, you're not sharing your hopes and dreams or anything. You're just talking about how your day's been, and even just talking about each other's dogs. Just having those little moments of connection was so nice. And again, it took the pressure off my husband, where in our first place, it was me and him, to the second place where I was fine, and eventually met people who would like want to go hiking on a Saturday when he was at work, which was great. And yeah, it is something that you really, really start to cherish. And probably had I been doing that in England and made friends through walking the dog, I probably wouldn't be thinking about it all day and be like, oh, that was such a nice morning. Whereas now I would. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt like that from COVID anyway, but definitely being an immigrant here and being kind of stuck, it was just nice to go and be Katie outside. And I don't know about you, maybe you felt like this, but sometimes with the waiting, I felt like my situation came before me. So sometimes you could talk to people and be like, oh, and have you heard anything yet? And you just go round the same thing of like, oh no, still waiting on my visa. And I don't want to say people pitied me, but I think there definitely was kind of like a little bit of like, oh, you know, hopefully you'll get it soon. And I just got so fed up with talking about it. And just being able to meet people, and I wanted to know about like where I'm from, or like how I met Andre, and like even like what kind, my dog's called Annabelle, what kind of breed Annabelle is, like being able to just do those things, and it's a low stakes situation, I would say. You know, you're not trying to put your best foot forward. It's not like some kind of posh dinner party or get together. It's, you know, you're at the laundromat, you know, you don't have just all, I don't know, just all of that aspect's gone, and you can just have like casual conversations and just be yourself, which is really, really nice.
Yeah, the thing about waiting really strikes a chord with me, because I'm a doer, and I really fell into this pit of waiting. You know, I was like, oh, okay, I'll wait for this. And you need to, in my case, you need to pay a certain amount to apply for the right to work visa. So, oh, well, I have to wait till we can afford that, then I apply, then, so there was a lot of stages that involved waiting. And I'm a very impatient person, and there's a good side to being impatient, it means you get things done, and there's the downside.
Yeah.
So my patience was sorely tested, but and probably good for me to develop my patience. But in terms of the waiting side of things, I really shrank, as a person. I kind of lost my identity a little bit. I lost my way. And there was, you were talking about how frustrating it was to keep talking about jobs. There were moments when I had fun with that. In America, it seems to be very important to say, a bit like
What you
England,
do.
what do you
Yeah.
do? And
Yeah.
I would say, I do nothing. And I had so much
Yeah.
freedom in that statement. I don't think they had freedom. I think they'd be like, what? What do you mean you do nothing? And the standard response was, but you must do something. And I'd say, yes,
Yeah.
I do lots of things. I just don't work. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but that was quite funny, because I realized how much stock is put on what you do. And obviously there's a very strong work ethic here. People work incredibly hard, no matter what their
Yeah.
job is, and they don't have tons of holiday, etc. So, you almost didn't fit in. And if anything, that impacts that sense of shrinking. You're like,
Yeah, because you can't just I don't know, it's such a small question that you say and people are like, oh, that's interesting, and then you kind of move along. And it's just that really crucial part of conversation in the United States that you just can't really participate in. Oh, I don't work, and then it's like, why not? Oh, well, it's my visa, and then you're going down this road again. And it's weird. And I think sometimes, did you find people would get like a little bit probing sometimes? Oh, well, have you got children? And I'm like, no.
oh yeah,
Just wash my husband's
yeah.
with you.
I would just get a very emphasized, well, what do you do?
Yeah, yeah. And then it would be like, well, when you get your green card, then what are you gonna do? And I'm like, huh? But are there even like, I mean, we're saying this about it's such a big part of American culture, but actually, I've always worked since being in my teens, and you don't realize how much of a part of your identity it does become when you don't have a job yet. And I think I see this so much, people say it like wearing it as a badge of honor. I've worked since I was a teenager and I've never been unemployed, and then all of a sudden you're in this situation and it's like, oh, I didn't realize that had been so important to me, but I guess it was.
Mm.
So that kind of makes you reevaluate yourself a bit, I guess. Yeah.
And in that reevaluating of that space between the questions of what do you do and the fact that you couldn't work, how did you start to explore what your future would look like that's now your present? How did you get to where you are now?
Oh my gosh, that's so interesting. That's a very interesting question. I think, like I sort of touched on earlier, I really had to have a bit of a crossword with myself and say, leave your husband alone. Like, you're only responsible for yourself. Like, what are you going to do to make a difference? You're finding this difficult. You're finding it isolating. What will you do? And I think I used to paint and draw, and I did it all the way up through school. And so I started drawing more and painting more. And just for fun, really. Pass the time, give me something to occupy myself with, and also like get me away from screens, which is such a modern problem, isn't it? But you've got nothing to do. It's just so easy to all day. So I started drawing and painting, which ended up being generally friends and family I started doing. I was practicing on, and then I moved on to the dog, obviously, which then moved into other people. I've done celebrities and pets and stuff, and just exploring that creative side of me. And it's been so lovely, because I feel like when I was younger, I tried to choose the more sensible path, and I was like, I'm going to do German, and I'm going to get this great German involved job. And I was kind of discouraged a bit from doing art, because people say, you never make anything as an artist. And then, in the meantime, I started university in 2009. In the meantime, Etsy took off, Instagram, people using social media. It's actually, creativity in the arts now has become a much more viable kind of income source.
Mm.
So I think that gave me something. And people are always interested to see what other people are doing creatively. Whatever you're making, people are always so interested. So I definitely started with with my art, and that's eventually led me into the career I'm in now, where when I did get my green card, I started selling. Well, I do mostly commissions of people's pets. But I sell other just paintings that I've done. I'm in an art shop here in my city, just selling. I think at the moment I've got a sea life collection going, so it's sea lions, otters, that kind of thing.
Mm.
There's octopus in there. So that was nice. That was kind of like getting something for myself. But then when you were talking about feeling quite small and becoming I think you're almost like a shadow of yourself. I think trying to take room up again was a big thing. So it's hard when you've been long distance with someone for so long. Your lives are intertwined, but they are so separate. Like your financial struggles are yours. Like he wasn't even with the same currency as me half our relationship, so we didn't really cross finances very much. We didn't need to. And then all of a sudden it's like, right, well, now you depend on him for everything. And it was like, ugh. And I would like try and like order cheap things from the restaurant if we're going out to eat, or I would like be trying to do things at home that would save us money, and like always just trying to justify everything. And like, I know this is so silly, but I know how much my husband earns an hour, so I'd be like, right, I wonder he's been at work for half an hour and that's what it would take to earn this, so is this really worth it? And I would like constantly be trying to justify myself, my existence here as his wife. And like, really, he brought me here. He asked me to marry him. He married me. He wanted me here. But I think you kind of get into this headspace of, oh, like I'm so useless because I'm not doing anything. I mustn't take up any room, and I must make sure everything is just so. And I think allowing myself to take up a bit more space. I mean, like now we're in my studio. Even that was a bit of a thing to start with. It's in the basement in my condo. I felt like it's not fair to him to take up a room. Which, like, why? He doesn't have anything to put not to be horrible, he doesn't have anything to put in here. So I think getting my space for myself was fantastic, and my creativity and having room and things like that, but then also taking up space in life, which I think it's not just an immigrant thing. I think it's a thing for a lot of women. We feel like we need to make ourselves as small as possible. So trying to like make a conscious effort to overcome that also really helped, I guess. And I'd try it with Andre, and I'd be like, I'm gonna order the steak.
I'm going to
order the steak or something like that, get something more expensive. And he's like, yeah. But I'm almost like still seeking permission for it. And I'd like test the waters. Like, is this allowed? Like, of course it is. Like, we're married, we share money, it's fine. But like, I think mentally, really, really, really having to just say to myself, you get to take up room, you're allowed to exist, was just like a massive. I don't even know how to describe it. Just something that became important to me for my own sense of self was take up space. You're okay. That's allowed.
That's a really interesting way of wording it, because I think I didn't word it like that, but I can see myself in that, because I kept questioning how I was meant to make a difference. Where cabin crew, I know people think we lead a glamorous life and all the rest of it, but I think most cabin crew want to make a difference. You want to be of service to the customers.
Yeah.
Yes, you want to enjoy the experience when you get to another location, but a lot of it for many of us was also about the journey, not just the destination. And when you come from different walks and you were exploring teaching, and you know,
Mhm.
I've been a teacher before. All the things I've ever done, I correlate them in one package as customer service. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, where am I making a difference? What am I contributing to society? And
Mm.
it's a kind of an odd sensation to go
Yes,
through.
yeah,
And then to ask yourself how you do that. So I went through very similar thought processes to you. And you know, and I've actually had to listen to other people. I had only in passing, a friend said to me yesterday, you know, wow, you know, you just chose to accompany your husband. Not everybody would choose to do that. And I hadn't really thought about it like that, because obviously that was of course I'm
yeah,
going to do that for me.
yeah,
And 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 it's been worth it. So, but it was interesting to have another perspective of what we have contributed. We have contributed just in rocking up, just showing up.
yeah. That's it. You do think, no, actually, you have done something, and sometimes it takes somebody else to realise that. Like I am close to my family. I've got three sisters at home, my parents, my granny, um, and I left it all behind to come here. And it's very easy to look on paper and be like, right, you live in California. Like, I'm from a really tiny village in Lincolnshire, so that in itself is just like, whoa, like that's amazing. Um, and I don't work, and it all looks like so great for me. And like he's the one that's working, he's the one that's from here, he's the one that's coordinated the visa. But actually, just because my life in Lincolnshire didn't sound so glamorous as maybe it does now here in California, like it was a heck of a lot to give up. And I think you have to kind of pat yourself on the back for that and give yourself
Mm,
credit. Like, yeah, I did just have to leave to a different country.
mm,
And like you said, a lot of people wouldn't do that.
mm.
Well done
Yeah, well done us.
us.
And but you only see all of that when you've emerged from the piece of what you were saying about making ourselves small. You know, when we're no
Mm,
longer doing that, then we are acknowledging ourselves for what we have and do
exactly.
contribute. And then when we give up the waiting game, even with or without a job, I think your brain just starts popping, and you start having ideas for what the future will hold, and you start being in action. Like you started to paint and draw as a release,
Yeah,
as a way of doing something different other than looking at your phone. So it might not have been, and you also spoke very powerfully about being in the moment. So my experience of when I paint, which has been some years in the past, but I just disappear. I'm just in the moment completely. I'm in the painting. So, you know, and that any worries, any thoughts, they're all gone. There's just a focus. So it must, well, I'm assuming it was quite therapeutic to suddenly kind of cease the conversations about waiting and putting yourself down, to being someone who was in the moment, being creative. And did you have any idea at that point it was going to become your vocation?
do you know what? At the beginning, I had a couple of people say to me that, "Oh yeah, yeah, you should do this when your green card comes. You should start a business." And I just felt like, I think this is something as well. We're talking about people being really attached to their jobs in the States. People try and monetize stuff quite a lot. So I was just like, no, I don't know that I really want to, have that kind of pressure. To produce something for other people, and like, do I want to monetize something that I get so much joy out of? It was quite precious at the beginning. I didn't really want to think about monetizing it because it felt too clinical. It felt like, am I going to ruin this hobby for myself? um but then it did sort of evolve when my green card actually came. I sat and had a conversation with my husband, and we decided that, yeah, maybe we would give it a go. So yeah, that's how it came about, really.
Mm. And how did, I mean, I know you paint pets, so you paint cats,
Yeah,
dogs, guinea pigs,
yeah.
snakes, I don't know, whatever. Well, in America, people have tigers as pets, so who knows? But no, seriously, how did the seals come about? Because you also mentioned that you paint seals.
Oh, yeah, do you know what? I am a very big brush strokesy person. I like squeezing the paint tube and just getting it straight on the canvas. I like bright colours, and we took my sister this year. She came to visit. We decided to go to the aquarium, and I was just totally enthralled by it. I got this idea. I think I started off with jellyfish, and it's the way that they're in these dark rooms with this light on top. So all of the water looks kind of very dark blue or black, and the jellyfish, like the light was just, it was just so beautiful on them. And I was like, yeah, I want to paint that. And then we're kind of continuing around the aquarium, and I'm just like snapping little shots of octopus, which I don't know, I'm just into octopus. I like them. But then, you know, the aquarium that we were at was the San Francisco Aquarium. And you know, when you go out of Fisherman's Wharf, there's all those sea lions just there on the what are they on, like they've got their own little they've got their own little docking area now to go and sit on. So I was showing them, I was like, come on, let's go and see the sea lions. So I started getting pictures of those, and they're just, I don't know, there's certain animals that just really draw me in, that they just have such an attitude. You know, they kind of like sit with their heads up and they're like, here I am. And I was like, yeah, this is what I need to paint. And you know, I'm used to painting fur and stuff. Like I paint a lot of animals, like I said, pets, cats and dogs mostly. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to give a sea lion a go. And yeah, that's how we got the inspiration for that. But I think, you know, having the freedom to work full time as an artist, you do start to look at things so much like, I can make this into something, and I can share it. It's not just a snap on your phone anymore. It becomes more than that, which is nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it's very inspiring. What would you say is in all, you know, we've been in quite an international setting, and we've seen many different cultures and things like that. And now that we're in America, and obviously states are very different, I almost feel like moving from one state to another state is like moving a country. But what are some of the things, or what is one thing you've picked up on in America? It might be specific to California, I don't know, that you really like. So if I give you my example,
yes, give me yours.
One of the things I absolutely adore about this place, and I'm assuming it's America wide, is if you open a door for somebody, if somebody opens a door for me, I will obviously say thank you, but that person will complete the communication, and they'll say, you're good, not a problem, you're welcome. There will be another communication. If I get off a bus and I say to the bus driver, have a good day, the bus driver will say something. Thank you. You too. Go well. Something. It will never be, in England, I might say something like that, and there's no real response, or there's a physical response through a smile.
Yeah, or a nod. Yeah.
Yeah, or a nod. Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
So how do you, what have you discovered that is a trait you really, or quality you really like?
I really like, and I think this is probably nationwide for the United States, is the celebration culture. So I think, you know, everything is so exciting, and I think part of that comes from being such a young nation. You know, things like July 4th is just like all out, let's go crazy, let's all get together. And we just don't have that same sense in England, and I think we take a lot of our culture for granted, and we don't really celebrate it. And I think, I don't know, people are just really quick to just throw a party here, not just like an actual party, but like to just have celebrations and have certain foods and have get-togethers, and I really enjoy it. I mean, I think there can be a bit of a downside where you see nowadays, I think I've seen a lot of Americans kind of get annoyed. It's like, oh God, I'm in someone's wedding and I have to pay this much and that much, where we don't expect that in England. You know, pay for your bridesmaid dress, we wouldn't make someone do that. so it does have a flip side, but on the whole, I just love that people are so quick to get together and to celebrate. I really, really like that. The same thing I would say with going to a baseball game. Like, they're not the most thrilling sports matches. You know, they're kind of long, they can be quite slow, but it doesn't matter. It's so accessible. You can spend like $10 on a ticket and you can get up and move around, and they have the I guess things that's in every game. Like, we do the national anthem, we do Take Me Out to the Ball Game, that song comes on, like people just get up and get the hot dogs, everyone's just having a good time together. You don't even need to really be interested in the thing that you're doing, but it's like, let's all just be part of it. And I love that. I absolutely love that. I think when I first moved to this city, I was invited to a football, like, it was the kickoff of the college football season party, and I was like, what do I bring? Like, what do I wear? Do I need like the sports stuff? Look at myself. This is like 3 years later, and I'm like, the sports top? I don't know. But they're like, no, just come, bring some beers. We'll have a great time. And I just didn't really know anything, and I did have a great time. I love that.
So would you say that that kind of experience is having you feel settled now? Because now you have been here, what did you say at the beginning, 3 or 4 years already?
Yeah, it'll be 4 years this year at the end of the month. Yeah, I feel very settled. I think a lot of people here are asking me if I miss home, and I still feel such a strong connection to home. You're reminded every day here that you're British. It's not even something that you think about ever when you're home. So you're always kind of talking about it a little bit to people anyway. So you do feel that connection of, great, like I FaceTime a lot back home. So I feel quite grounded being here because my relationships at home are so good. But then also I think having I kind of moved in and already had a support system because I was marrying an American. I think I said to you before we started recording, if something goes wrong, I'll call my father-in-law. I'm like, Dad, which is exactly what I'm doing with my own dad in England. So I think I did kind of move with that, but then also being able to branch out and make my own friends who aren't anything to do with him, who don't like share our surname. And just, I guess, just get involved in sports games and get involved in like going hiking and seeing what the area is that we live in. I definitely feel very settled here. I definitely call it home. And I went home last year for 3 weeks, and it was my first time in 3 years. And actually, I had such a wonderful time, but by the end I was like, yeah, I'm ready to get home now, meaning back here, it was a really, really nice feeling.
That is.
But how about you? I mean, you're a year in.
Well, I'm a year in, and we're on a temporary contract. I feel like we are serial moving country people, like I think we enjoy living somewhere for a time and investing in that, investing our time and our energy into what we're doing while we're where we are. And then we tend to move on. So or move back. But I think our next move in a few years' time will be not moving back, but moving on to another country. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Do you think, I heard this saying a while ago, and I really feel it applies to me, and I'm wondering if it is for you, but home becomes a person and not a place. And I very, very much feel like that with Andre. Even before I moved here, that mental ability to just like relax is being with him. So wherever he is, I guess, is home. Do you have that feeling?
100%, completely that feeling. I think it's a very interesting question, because as I grew up, I was very privileged. I had a lovely upbringing, and my mum created home. So I had a sense of home, but from the age of 18 and moving away, I never had that sense of home, because I was always in and out of rented accommodation for years and years and years. And I have never purchased a property. So, I've always lived this kind of style of renting. And my husband and I used to say, sometimes we'd live somewhere, but we would say we don't feel at home. So the finding of a home that was our physical place was very important. However, the two of us always feel at home with each other. And
Yeah.
Michelle Obama says something amazing in a conversation with somebody about how she feels, home was where Barack is. And
Yeah.
I shouldn't quote her, but, something in that vein. And when she said it, I was like, I couldn't say it better. And you're saying the very similar thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's incredibly grounding that,
Yeah.
if your heart is at home, the rest will follow, so everything else will kind of work itself out. So I do feel very at home because my husband's here. He's very happy in his move here. So that makes sense. And that
Yeah.
ends up being like an anchor. If he was unhappy here, then it would throw everything into kind of why we're here. But because he's so happy, then that's like the pull of gravity for me to just be like, well, find your way, because this
Yeah.
is where we are now. And and it's an opportunity to embrace and explore. And to be honest, having emerged from the smaller conversations that we were referring to, I actually feel very privileged, that I'm I have been up until now bound by not being someone who was allowed to work, and those constraints don't feel strong anymore because I'm more aware of the privilege of, well, it's not, when I couldn't work, well, I can't work, and what
Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
But it took me a while to get into that headspace. But it's a wonderful place to now be, where I can explore and discover, and feel very grateful to my husband that he is able to provide, but also more so that I do, exactly as you said, feel at home wherever he is. And that makes moving countries exciting, because wherever we go next, so long as we're both happy with it, then
Yeah.
I know we'll be at home, because, so it's,
Exactly.
yeah,
Well, that's so sweet.
yeah. But I'm delighted you feel that way, because, you are married to an American. Of course, you can go anywhere in the world, and being an artist, that really opens up avenues. You can take
Yeah.
that career with you now. You're not giving up on anything, so to speak. It can go with you. But the fact that you are marrying an American and have discovered your way and have made a career of your own choice, and like you said, you are responsible for how your experience of life is, and whether you're it's up to us to make ourselves happy. So I really hear that in
Yeah.
everything you've said, and it just is a discovery. It doesn't just happen overnight, but
No,
so
and I think when
well
you
done.
look back, I don't. Oh, thank you. I don't know if you felt this way, but I try and look back at the beginning of my time here and think about all of the things that made me so nervous to start off with. I think it's important to do that in life anyway. Like, I remember getting my job offer at British Airways and thinking, "Oh my God, like, I just can't believe I've done this. Like, I can't believe that was me." And then all of a sudden you're in the uniform and you're doing the job in your sleep. It's just so funny that, almost a decade ago now, we were these nervous, brand new flight attendants, scared about every little thing we were doing. There's so many exams, and we were so kind of just scared about it all. And a decade later, we've lived the life, and we're both ended up taking very similar paths. Here we both are in the States. Yeah, amazing. I'm proud of us as well.
Yeah, I am as well. And it's
Look what
really
we
lovely
did.
to be reunited with you as well.
Absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely.
mm. So I want to say thank you that you've been in this conversation with me. And I'm still looking forward to the day when you get to paint one of the pedigree dogs in my neighborhood. Um, because I think there's going to be quite a number of people interested in these very personal portraits you do of their very precious pets. So I think it's a wonderful career that you're forging, and I'm really happy as your friend, that you're settling in so well into California. So thank you for being with me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Claire.